Genryusai Yamamoto with both arms versus the Schutzstaffel. Let's go!
Bankai, 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 Bankai,
Bankai.
Bankai, Bankai, Bankai. It's been a while, hasn't it?
What happens when the one who was labeled the strongest Shinigami faces off against the ones who were labeled the strongest Quincies? Or in Sternritter rankings, the ones who were considered the elites? The Schutzstaffel consists of Ligerbaro, the leader, Gerard Valkyrie, Pernida Parkajas, Askin Naklevar, and later Uryu Ishida, who was elevated to the rank of Schutzstaffel thanks to his actions against Ichigo Kurosaki. And in the bald corner, we have Genryusai Shigekuni Yamamoto, the former head of the Gotei 13, for 1000 years the strongest Shinigami of the Gotei 13, who was still praised as the strongest even with one arm, and having the reputation of the strongest in the four arts being Ho-Ho or speed movement, Zanjutsu or sword fighting, Hakuda or hand-to-hand combat, and Kido, which is Shinigami magic. Genryusai wasn't simply an old man with very big fists, as in the character book his stats for intelligence is maxed out. He's also been described as devious or cunning by Sosuke Aizen, meaning that the old man also knows how to fight dirty. Genryusai Zanpakuto Ryujin Jaka is called the strongest of the Gotei 13, also the strongest fire elemental type Zanpakuto, acknowledged by even Shinigami Aizen Sosuke as a superior Zanpakuto to even his Kyokasu Getsu. Now, Ryujin Jaka aside, one of the main reasons for Genryusai's superior strength is the fact that his body has been pushed to the very limits, a prime example of what Sosuke described as a Shinigami maxing out their potential. In this comparison, Genryusai will possess both arms, since there are Reiatsu vents in the Shinigami's wrists which allow for the flow of spiritual pressure. And if a Shinigami's arm is cut off, the location of the cut will become the new place for Reiatsu release, which means that they can still release their spiritual pressure, but controlling it becomes extremely difficult. Therefore, Genryusai will have both arms. Now, to understand how he compares to the Schutzstaffel members, there are different ways and perspectives when it comes to scaling speed and power within the Bleach universe. But this time, let's make a comparison between Genryusai, Unohana, and Zaraki, with Unohana being able to rival Zaraki in his true state once he's released his true power without his eye patch, her being weaker than him but still being able to rival him as stated multiple times, and with Genryusai being superior to Unohana in combat, his combat speed would be in that ballpark. This Kenpachi without his eye patch was able to face Gerard Valkyrie without his eye patch, with the Schutzstaffel member being in his titanic form, and they were said to be rivaling each other in combat. If you consider this path of scaling, then Gerard Valkyrie would be superior to his base form in giant form, as he gains additional buffs in Reiatsu and combat power as he gets bigger. Yamamoto could also fight Roid Lloyd, who was relative to Yuha Baha, possessing 70 to 80% of his power. And Yuha went on to trade blows with Ichibe Hyosube, the head of Squad Zero. Now this Yuha should be faster and stronger to a certain extent, as he absorbed the souls of countless Shinigami and Quincy as well as Sternritters. In fact, he should have also absorbed the souls of Roid and Genryusai, increasing his power further, as whoever comes in contact with his Reiatsu or the Reiatsu of his Sternritters and die will have their souls go to him. Although we don't know how much stronger or faster he becomes with each soul, since some of their powers go to his life force and help to restore his senses. In the worst case scenario, this would just mean that Ichibe is faster than Genryusai. But what of the other Schutzstaffel compared to the Shinigami? Like Yoroichi being able to tag and battle Askin Naklevar, and Kisuke Urahara being able to do the same thing. Although you could argue in Kisuke's case, it was as Bankai, Benihime Aratame, which adjusted his soul, allowing him to take on Askin's Volstandish. But are Shinigami like Yoroichi simply outside the capabilities of Genryusai? Like, wouldn't he be able to keep up with Askin Naklevar if she could? And I think this is where scaling meets narrative and reality. Genryusai's soul in terms of battle strength and power level is greater than Yoroichi's, his power being greater than Aizen's, whose Reiatsu is leagues beyond the great nobles like Yoroichi. In other words, Genryusai's soul is a much stronger vessel than Yoroichi's, in terms of the amount of battle power you can stuff inside their souls, and he pushed his soul to the point where he maxed out his capabilities. Even in Current Fairy Owned World, the novel following the battle with the Quinces, Tokinada was able to react to Yoroichi Shihoin, Tokinada being someone below Genryusai's combat power level. So again, there are really different ways to scale characters, but from a greater perspective, it makes sense for a maxed out superior soul to be able to compete within the ballpark of the Schutzstaffel as well. And so I don't think speed would be an issue for Genryusai. Neither is power, since no one besides Yuha could contain Genryusai's Bankai. a power which summons all its flames into its blade to obliterate your existence, raise the dead, and create armor as hot as the sun's core. So much power that it threatens to destroy the Soul Society itself. So Genryusai's greatest barrier would be to overcome the hacks or strange abilities of the Schutzstaffel members. I believe the easiest battle would be Pernida Pankajaz, who needs to establish contact through its nerves, as said nerves would be repelled by Ryujin Jaka's heat, and a well-placed blast from Ryujin Jaka's power would literally obliterate Pernida Pankajaz before he could get the opportunity to evolve to Genryusai's level. Next we have Gerard Valkyrie, and if the fight starts in base form, he's also at risk of being destroyed, as a well-placed attack from Ryujin Jaka could destroy both him and his Quincy Cross. But if Genryusai fails to be thorough and he gets a chance to evolve, he could become a problem. Secondly, if he bears his Hoffnung and Genryusai destroys it, that destruction would be reflected upon Genryusai's spirit body. So Yamamoto has the attack power to end the Gerard, but this is a very tricky situation. Next, we have Askin Naklevar. And this is very much the same as Gerard Valkyrie's case, where Genryusai has the attack power to destroy Naklevar. If Yoroichi's lightning could push him close to death, then Genryusai, who is leagues beyond Yoroichi, would literally obliterate him. But if the old man is reckless and Naklevar adapts to his power, then both Ryujin Jaka's Shikai and Bankai would become useless. The next round takes us to the Schutzstaffel leader, Liege Baro. Now Genryusai doesn't have to get past Liege's intangibility, as he can't. Instead, he has to wait for the moments where the Quincy is tangible. And like Shunsui, he has to aim for those moments. Attack power is not a problem, since even Shunsui's Bankai could end Liege Baro even in Volstandish, and Zankanatachi is leagues beyond Katen Kyokutsu Karamatsu Shinju in terms of attack potency. It's just that Karamatsu Shinju's reality-bending powers was more compatible with Liege Baro's intangibility. Therefore, if Liege goes into Volstandish form, Genryusai pretty much loses. Therefore, his best chance is to combine Kido spells, since there are a variety of spells which can cast illusions and camouflage, and pair that with his Ryujin Jaka and speed. Regardless, this would be his hardest battle so far, as Liege is able to perceive even Nemaya's movements. And if he fires at you before you dodge, his diagram ignores the concept of dodging. Even in Shunsui Kyoraku's case, it wasn't because the captain was fast. He was able to trap Liege Baro. His Katen Kyokutsu released a variety of illusion-based techniques which confuse Liege Baro's senses. And since Genryusai is a devious type who would wander off and set fire pits and traps for Liege Baro, he does stand somewhat of a chance against the Sternritter, but it is a very narrow window. And finally, the latest member of the Schutzstaffel, Uryu Ishida. After two separate fights with Ichigo Kurosaki, Uryu definitely has a speed to keep up with Genryusai, especially with the second fight where Ichigo was genuinely trying to stop Ishida, so you could talk some sense into him. But in this case, I believe the greatest issue would be Ishida's power, the Antithesis. The moment Genryusai's fire destroys something, Ishida can simply reverse the events, as a shrift allows him to reverse whatever has happened between 2 points. And guess who Zanpakuto is known for being destructive, which even passively destroys everything around him? That's right, Ryujin Jaka. The old man would literally be walking on eggshells the entire time. And if he can reverse events from a Bankai like Senjimaru's Shatatsu Karagara, which can affect multiple separate dimensions within the Bleach cosmology, then his power can literally affect Zankanatachi as well. This one is heavily in Uryu's favor, of course as long as Genryusai doesn't one-shot him. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and see you soon.